Hello, hello. Gary here, day 7 of our 25 days talking about mental health, awareness of mental health issues. So, what is it I want to talk about today? I really didn't really know what I wanted to talk about today. I've had lots of ideas from different people, and some of the subjects that will be coming up in the future. We'll be talking about bullying in its context. We're looking at self-esteem and self-image and what that means to people. We'll be looking at self-determination, taking responsibility, and maybe over the weekend, I want to sort of flesh out that sort of stuff, particularly around change, the process of change. And I mentioned there about talking about goal books. And speaking of books, so I've got a pile of books here, but I've got a little special shout out to a friend of mine who sent me 2 books here, which I've not read. You mentioned the books, and I've not read them. So thank you very much, Ash. So Ash runs a second-hand bookstore, Golden Stone Books. So I'm probably going to hit him for some books now and in the future. So best to Google him. Yeah. So if you want any of these books, a particular book. So I'm going to talk about a particular book each day, and then probably over the next few days, I'll probably put a list of books somewhere that I've gotten read and the impact that particularly they've had on me. So this book here, Games People Play, Eric Berne. Interesting book in an analogy that he writes in a way that creates thinking from yourselves through the process. The book itself looks at people's psychological relationships with other people. And that sounds a bit deep, but actually the way that it's written, he writes it in a way that each of the sort of dramas that we play out is like a game. And it's not a game, it's not fun, but it's a game, a process. And each person within that sort of relationship has a part to play. And it is interesting because when I first read this book, I thought, yeah, that's interesting, but didn't really have any examples of games that I'd been involved in until I started to do a lot more research and a lot more in-depth personal development and started to look at some of those games that people do play. And it was a fascinating thing to read. And I recognised myself in so many of the scenarios. So that was a key book for me. And on the subject of books, if you're not a great reader, but you want to do some personal development. I mentioned there about the sort of talking books. Yeah, there's loads of ways that you can dive into getting involved in personal development, but there is so much key information out there. I encourage you to pick up some books, and not necessarily the ones I do or recommend, but the books normally find you, and that sounds weird, but we are all connected. This is a big load of energy, etc. Blah, 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 without going too deep. But if you start down the path, down the rabbit hole, as they say, of personal development, start diving in, things will start to pop up for you. Things will be put in your path, so to speak. Okay, so that's enough about that book and about books today. So we shall move on. Right, so what I want to talk about today is about forgiveness. The art of forgiveness, the process that starts healing for us, and particularly where we've spoken about our self-image, we've looked at the way that we see ourselves. So particularly, I mentioned there about writing our story, who we are, writing down all of the different things that we think that we should be, all our different roles and responsibilities in life, and that picture that people have either painted of us or we've painted of ourselves. And sometimes we go through life and we have things happen to us that we hold a grudge. We hold resentment. We hold a negative feeling around that situation and around the people connected to that situation. So what I want to talk about is why it is good to forgive, first of all. So if you think about the pain that this situation has given you, Who carries that pain? Is it the person that did the nasty thing to you? Is it the person that you believe that owes you something? No, it's you. You carry the pain of that situation. You carry the pain of whatever happened, whatever that person did to you. You carry the pain of that situation. Now, this isn't saying that we forget about this situation. This isn't saying that it was okay to what that person did. What it is, it's about us not carrying that situation on and have it create a meaningful negative hold on our life and shaping our future. So this is really a way for us to let go of those things that we feel that haven't been right in the past. And I wrote a little phrase down here that I've used quite a lot, and it's very painful at times. And it's about a question. So, do you want to be right, or do you want to be happy? And I'll repeat that. Do you want to be right? Do you want your position? You know, you're in the right. You know your response. You know, you say this thing. I'm right. This is all it. Or actually, do you want to be happy? Do you want to keep holding on to that negative emotion that person has created because they were wrong and therefore you're right? Or do you want to just let it go and be happy? So if you do want to actually let go of that thing, if you do want to move on from that thing and actually be happy, so there's a 4-step process, and it's not my 4-step process. Again, I've got, and I'll just show you, I've got lots of these books that I've written in over the years. This one's a bit dog-eared, etc. From other learnings, you know, reading books, I write little notes, scribble, bit of a phantom scribbler. And in this process, 4 steps. Okay, so the first step, if you decide that actually you want to forgive this situation, because it's not really the situation, you're forgiving yourself, letting go of this situation. So, uncover whatever the thing is, the negative situation that creates this sort of negative feeling for you. Be honest with yourself. What is it that makes you angry, that upsets you, that brings you to tears? This person, this situation has created this unsavory feeling, you know, this churning maybe at times. Just be honest about it. Uncover it, pull it out, write it down maybe, you know, sit with it, think about that situation. What is it that creates that issue for you? Okay. Second one, make a conscious decision. Decide, right, I am no longer going to have this thing hanging over my head. I am no longer going to let this thing, this process, this other happening that this person has done to me create a negative feeling in my life anymore. I'm not going to do it. A decision, a conscious decision. Okay. It has to be you taking control. A decision to change from then on about this process. Stage 3, work, right? And this is one of those things that is easier to do and it's easier not to do. Okay, it takes work, it takes effort, it takes a lot longer than the actual event to actually change the feelings around that event, because you've created those feelings. You've sat with them for days, months, even years maybe. So if you've sat with something for years, do you think that you just snapping your fingers, deciding that everything's okay is going to be okay? No, it might take quite a while for you to decide to change your feelings around that happening. But who's going to benefit? Is the person that did that nasty thing to you going to feel better? No, you. You're going to feel better about it. Okay. The final stage is discover. Once you've got over that feeling that this situation, this person no longer has that hold over you, no longer has that negative control, sit back and analyze that happening, that thing that person did to you, the events that led up to it. What was the meaning behind it? What? Because things happen and we can find meaning in them. If we can give it a meaning, then we can give it a positive spin, even out of negative situations. Okay, so it's a process of forgiveness, process of letting things go, process so that we as people, start to heal the past, start to heal those things that are creating some sort of issue for us. And again, it might well be all the way back to some of the beliefs and values that we mentioned on the first day. It might be some of those things. It might be some of the things that we discovered about ourselves that we hold dear to ourselves that actually aren't serving us very well, and actually holding on to them, and the decisions we make around those happenings and the feelings we have around them are not serving us. But they might be linked to a loved one. They might be linked to a family member, a mother, a father, a significant brother, sister, etc., that's left that imprint on us. And we sometimes feel that we're dishonoring them by rejecting that belief or value. No, it's not. We are given a choice. And we do have choice. We're free choice. We have a choice of whether these things will affect us or whether we accept them and then move on. Okay, so again, free will. We have a decision to make at any point. And I remember I mentioned Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist from the Second World War, who was imprisoned by the Germans in a concentration camp. The horrendous things he witnessed. Free will. It's all about free will, because you can decide how you feel. Things are going to happen to you. These things that people are doing to you may be connected to bullying. Okay, but you can work through the process of looking at that situation as not necessarily a positive situation, but forgiving the person because of maybe where they come from. What sort of upbringing has that person had? What sort of person is a bully? What sort of person creates that situation where we feel put down? Okay, so forgiveness. Again, it's not forgiving the person, not the actual event, but it's forgiving ourselves for holding that feeling around it. But by doing that, we're moving on from holding on to that negative feeling around that person. That person's not feeling it. We are. Okay, so it's sort of knitting into this. What I said this week was working on ourselves. So as well as looking at the self-talk. Okay, some of this self-talk may be centered around some of those negative feelings that we're holding against another person. It may be that they've planted those negative feelings. So maybe there's been a long-term bullying effect there, that we've let somebody create a negative spiral for us. So we're buying into another reality which isn't correct about us. So it's about healing ourselves. But that forgiveness, 4 steps. I'll just go over it again. So uncover what the actual feeling is that you're holding on to, and be honest about it. Yeah, the anger, the hurt, all of that. Let's get it out. Let's not bury it. Let's pick it up and look at it. Decide that you want to make a decision of moving forward. You want to change how you feel about this stuff. Work at it. Take action. Take some effort. Write stuff down. Go into it. It's going to be more painful to start with than just burying it. But if you bury it, it will always have an effect. And then finally, we can discover some sort of meaning out of this sort of stuff. So it starts to make more sense to us in the future. We can look at that and maybe turn that negative situation round into a positive one. Not necessarily the act of whatever's happened to us, but the act of forgiveness, the actual feelings that we have. We start to feel more positive. Again, maybe working on our self-esteem. Those feelings have been burying us for quite a while. We're the architect of those feelings. So we need to try and let go of those feelings and move on. Forgiveness as well is an act of love. Yeah, the L word. People shy away from using the word love. Not necessarily in the physical sense, but also the love of man. Okay, the society as we sort of see it at the moment is a little bit fractured. We've created that connection with people that we wouldn't normally, with the key workers through this process of making that sort of stuff. But by letting ourselves forgive, maybe we can sort of create a more open and honest future so that we can move forward. We can move forward, okay? So the forgiveness part is part of that step of being honest about our lives and making some change. So I just want to project forward now. So over the weekend, I want to talk about the process of change, and we're going to look at, particularly on Sunday, we're going to look at goal setting and how we set goals, the way that I've set goals, the way that goals work, a process of, I don't know, self-analysis. I would really say that, building on some of the things that we've talked about. But if we've been working through these little exercises, we've been listening to our story, written our story, who we are, or who we think we are. We've been listening to our self-talk. We've turned around our self-talk more positive. We've been more honest and open about maybe some of the things that we can look at that are holding us back, the negativities. Now we can start to maybe look at the ways that we can build and change some of the processes that we've got that aren't serving us. Maybe making some positive changes in our lives that help us once we become more mobile after COVID, the lockdown. We can start to put some of these more of these better things in process. Start being more open and honest with people, and maybe not holding on to some of those grudges that we've held on to. Forgiveness, forgiving ourselves of not making the right decisions or being in the wrong place, etc., for a period of time. So I hope that's been useful. I'd just like to mention that I've had quite a few people message me, reaching out from across the world, all over the place. People have sort of sent me messages saying that something within the videos has touched them, touched something that they were saying, feeling, etc., has helped. And as long as I feel that what I'm saying is helpful, is having an effect, then I will carry on. But again, some of these subjects are the subjects that you want to discuss, and it is very much around the process of looking at some of the issues. And like I said, next week we'll be looking into some of those key subjects, as well as looking at ways for us to look after ourselves better, particularly with the mental health, and work to make the future better. So with that, it's Friday night. Do you know what Friday night rhymes with? Rum. Okay, so I'll say good night. You enjoy yourselves, and I'll see you tomorrow.